I've reported all year on this show about the backlog of ships around the harbors on the West Coast, right? We're happy to report that the backlog is no longer, but not for good reasons. We'd love to report on the supply chain being fixed and tell you that product is moving friction-free around the country, but that's just not the case. What is the reason for the clearing of the backlog? How about this? A plunge in economic activity is the answer. Last week's plummeting retail sales number goes a long way in explaining this. Internationally, we're seeing shipping getting very much back on its feet, but only as we move into an inflationary talk. The inflationary talk is now moving into recessionary talk, too. So the dollar and our own monetary policy will go a long way on impacting these things. But today's take always is a slumping economy, not healthy supply chain. That's not good. My next guest has some thoughts on this, amongst other things. Please welcome to the show, Rebecca Walser. No more backlogs, no more economy, I guess is what that really gets down to. What are your thoughts on this? I mean, there's been some worrying signs going forward, but this is one of them.
Yeah, Scott. So we got these counts. In fact, we were counting the container ships outside of China, as well as outside of the ports of San Francisco and Los Angeles. And now, obviously, they're not backlogged anymore. A lot of that is they move to other U.S. port cities that could actually disembark and unload them quicker. And then, as you said, it's very clear that we have demand destruction happening. So that will help the supply chain.
Right.
When there's less ships coming over because we're not buying as much, that will clear up a lot of supply chain problems. But China has finally maybe seen the light to deal with their COVID zero policy. We started to finally see them pull back on that last week, but I wouldn't still say that won't give us more supply chain problems in the interim period. But really, Scott, what we're dealing with is we are a 70% consumer spending driven economy. We do not produce here anymore, and therefore we buy and consume from the rest of the world. China is our main trading supplier. And as we are able to buy less, then you will see less shipments and less ships come over. And that is purely demand destruction. So this is not indicative of, things are starting to smooth out and we're going to just keep going and have this fine recovery. We are on the precipice of recession. It was very interesting to see the Federal Reserve of Philadelphia come out and say the BLS numbers aren't exactly accurate this year by 1.1 million jobs being overstated. We kind of had that clue, Scott, that something was amiss, even with the November numbers when you have the ADP private payroll numbers at 127, but the actual official reports at 263. There's so much information coming that is government related. So it's government hiring. It's even GDP for Q3 was negative and every sector except for government spending, making it positive overall. So we're seeing just a lot of data. I don't want to say it's data manipulation, but I'd say it's data questions on the veracity of the data that is making people think that we're sort of okay, we're going to swim through this. And it's obfuscating the fact, Scott, that I think that the market is telling us that we are in a recession.
I mean, exactly right. And obfuscation is a perfect word for it, because nefarious, maybe not. I don't know. I'm not ready to go there right now, but you're exactly right about these numbers are making things look better than they are. And here's where the damage gets done, in my mind, Rebecca, is that Middle America is just trying to get through this, right? And so they're depleting their savings. They're ramping up their credit cards. And I did a story on this show probably a week and a half ago about how Vanguard is telling us now they're raiding their 401ks because they think they're going to be able to get through this and it's not going to be that big of a deal when it's going to be a big deal. The Fed president of New York, John Williams, says we're going to be, we've got an inflationary problem well into 2024. And before we get to the 2% mandate that the Fed wants to see inflation at, it's going to be well into 2025. I think that guy's the only guy that started to tell the truth a little bit here. And all of the numbers that we've gotten from the government have not been telling us that, have they?
Well, that's exactly my point. We keep getting these odd numbers, and now you have the fact that, the Philly Fed is saying that the BLS numbers are, in fact, wrong. This is shocking information. We depend a lot on these numbers being accurate, untainted, unmitigated, not politicized in any capacity. And if we start to see that, GDP and BLS and data is getting manipulated, that is a big problem because that's the source of the data. The source of the data is the government. So, if the government doesn't want to be held accountable for the kind of status of the economic situation that we're in, and they can sort of I hate to even allege it, Scott. It's just awful to even think that this could be the case. But there is some kind of manipulation, subterfuge of these numbers, and it's not right. We have to know what's going on. But let's just be honest, Scott. People know where we're headed. It started with layoffs with Amazon around the holidays, unprecedented, right? Unbelievable. And then you can now see it's moved over to finance. We see Goldman Sachs, we see Citi, we see all of these banks and investment banks coming out and saying they're going to have to lay off because there's not the work to be done. If people aren't out there spending and living their normal spending consumer lifestyles, which they don't and they can't because, like you said, they've gone through their savings, they're going through their credit cards, their sources of spending is drying up. That's when you're going to see really the impact hit the entire U.S. economy. We are a consumption-based economy, and when consumers can consume, you have a big economic problem on your hands.
There's only so far we can go. This will end at some point in time. It's horrible to see, even worse to say, but that's what we're heading for in 2023. But you'll still be around, and that makes me smile. So I really appreciate all of your content. You've been fantastic all year long. Rebecca Walser, she's in Tampa, Florida. Thank you very much.